Hello, everybody, and welcome to LeanTossup Call of Duty League podcast, Major 2, Week 3. We're here. We're going to give some quick news and give our Major 2, Week 3 bets. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, CDLMetrics. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. As a Minnesota Rocker fan, the last couple weekends have been rough, but we have had a lot of good COD to watch recently. I feel like last weekend we had 5 or 6 or 7 highlight clips alone. So that was fun. The games have been entertaining, to say the least. And we have another good batch coming up this weekend. Looking forward to it, as always.
Yeah, it's gonna be it'd be pretty good. We got some interesting matchups this week, but I will say one note because I forgot to say it forgot to say it last week. I'm gonna say it this week. Is that with the COD League having less matches per week, I hate it. Don't do this ever again. This kind of sucks. It's not fun. 2 matches on a Friday. We got rid of this years ago, and the thing is, if they were good matches, I'd be like, sure. But they're not. And the thing is, that's not necessarily speaking specifically to the games, because actually Ultra plays on Friday. Or no, they do. They play Seattle on Friday. In general, I would say, and not necessarily, the game is fine, the quality of the game is fine. I would just say, in general, matches have been less competitive this year, which is a function of the skill gap, but the teams are less competitive. This whole point about, oh no, we have to no, it's just annoying. Yeah, it's just annoying. But anyways, hopefully that's more of a league problem than an actual COD problem. Quick news this week. This is interesting. We actually talked a little bit about this last week. This is from Bloomberg. Call of Duty League team owners have asked Activision for higher revenue sharing deals on sponsorships. Activision and Microsoft are negotiating with CDL team owners to potentially increase revenue splits on certain deals. This is very interesting with regards to the news we saw last week, which was Scump and Hector and Hex suing the CDL. And there's apparently also a potential lawsuit of the other CDL teams suing the CDL. I think this is I would not be surprised if this is a two-pronged strategy on this. It's, hey, we'll sue you, or give us a bigger cut of the revenue and sponsorship deals and make it so that we can stay financially solvent. If not, yeah, we're going to sue you. And I honestly don't know what Activision is going to do. I don't know if they're going to say, screw you, go down with your ship. I kind of think they are, because they let the Overwatch League go down. I don't think the Call of Duty League is bigger than the Overwatch League, but not that bigger. If this was League of Legends, I'd say, okay, yeah, Riot isn't going to let that go, or Valorant or something like that. But this is not particularly making a lot of money. This is actually a net negative on their portfolio. If you're saying, okay, we need more money to make this work, I think, here's the thing, they're negotiating currently. Which doesn't mean they just said, fine, we're giving you 75. They're like, okay, 55% revenue share. They're like, yeah, okay, we need more than that, right? So there is movement on this stuff here, and we will hear more and more about this. Again, when you hear news about this, generally it's a lot of ways this is like a pressure tactic. You get this out, you leak this to someone, and you say, hey, we're trying to get bigger revenue shares. It then puts pressure on Activision and Microsoft to give that to you, right? If everything was fine, if this was going perfectly well, then Activision would announce, we're giving higher revenue shares. This wouldn't be like we're negotiating with Activision to get higher revenue shares. Activision would be like, we've decided to. This is the thing. I have concerns about we're far from done here. I would not be surprised if this is, you give us more money per year, if not, we're going to sue you. This could be the first. And the thing is, that does make a lot of sense here, because there are some NFL owners on this, right, who have very high-powered lawyers, right? So if they took a look at the CDL, you can imagine Bob Kraft just saying, hey, lawyers, figure out how to get out of this, right? Same thing as Stan Kroenke, right? They could have said, I've got lawyers, give this to them, I want out of this. I want this either financially viable, or I want out of this. And maybe this screams to me a pressure tactic by some of the CDL owners to try to either get more money or get out of this league. That's what it screams to me. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that in the report it says Call of Duty League team owners, plural, have asked Activision for higher revenue. So we don't know, is it every team? I don't know if those specifics are out there, but it's at least multiple teams. I would think it's at least like the heavy hitters like FaZe, Optic, New York maybe, Toronto for sure. Yeah, it makes sense, I guess, if a lot of those franchises are like, hey, it's really hard for us to make a profit. And when we signed the deal years ago, it seemed like it would not be this hard 4 years later. So we need more of the money that you're bringing in. I get it. We'll see if the team owners make any waves with this. A lot of the information with this kind of stuff is hidden anyway. For the team packs that you can buy, if I want to buy a Minnesota Rocker team pack, it's $12 and change with tax. And I know some of that money goes to Minnesota Rocker. I'm supporting them when I buy that, but I don't know how much of that $12 goes directly to the organization versus how many just goes to the league, right? Maybe it's 50-50, maybe it's somewhere just around that number. I don't know. But yeah, for whatever reason, the teams are like, hey, we need more cash. An easy way to do that would just be give us a bigger cut, just a little bigger cut, please. And maybe let us get some more sponsorships for our teams, because I know there have been some restrictions with what sponsors can team up with these teams. I remember years ago, the subliners were sponsored by DraftKings, and there was a whole debacle there because they had like a DraftKings patch on their jersey on the opposite side of their name, but every time they streamed and they had their player cams on, you saw black tape across the DraftKings logo because for some reason they couldn't show that on stream. But if you would watch subliners' YouTube videos that they would produce or other content, and they were wearing jerseys or hoodies or whatever, they would proudly display the DraftKings stuff because it wasn't on the CDL stream. So I don't know. There's more than just DraftKings. There's apparently other sponsors that just can't be like a part of this. So I think the owners are just saying, hey, let's loosen the restrictions on that because that's an easy way to get more money as well. Yeah, we'll see how this shakes out. It might take a while, but yeah, I just thought it was newsworthy for this week for sure.
And again, we're going to keep monitoring this, obviously, and seeing what the rumors about this say, but I just don't think this looks good, to be fair. I think this is, in a league that's running, everything is fine. There's other problems aside from just money. I think money is one of the bigger problems, but there's other problems. The fact that I think half the teams, if you gave them equal money, but they probably have, if you said, okay, we'll buy out what you had, half the teams would probably sell. There's massive competitive issues with the league where the top teams are spending money and the other teams are not spending money at all on salaries. Basically, they're spending the bare minimum. There's a lot of issues here, and I think that I think as we look at this, I think we'll get a lot more information about this very soon. And then moving on here, we've got this. So I didn't actually see this. I was sparingly watching the games a little bit this weekend. What happened here?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack with this. For those listening, this is a tweet from ASIM, newly signed Boston Breach player, and the tweet has a video clip, and the first thing you might notice in the video clip is, so it's New York versus Boston from this past weekend, and I believe that was the first match on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So the broadcast should have all of their things in order, you would expect. But if you look closely, the New York guys, it says they're Los Angeles Thieves, and it has Ghosty is where Kismet is, and Kremp is where Sib is, and all the names are off. And then under them is Optic Texas, which is actually Boston Breach. Kenny is Snoopy, and Shotzi is Priesta, and it's just wrong. Good job on the broadcast to just, I don't know, forget to do this. But the main thing with this video, if you watch it, is you hear the player comms for Boston. I don't know if you hear New York's as well, but you hear Boston player comms in Invasion Hardpoint, I think it was. Yeah, they were down, or they were up 100 points, ASIM says. And then all of a sudden you hear a kitchen sink in the background, just like showering down water on some plates or whatever. And it's like really loud and noticeable. And you can hear Asim go, "Hey ref, please mute your microphone. That's really loud," or something. So the ref apparently for this match had his mic on, not on mute. He probably should have. And he was washing dishes or something, so he probably wasn't paying the closest attention to the game itself. So there's a lot that's just, it's a bad look, obviously, for the league and whoever was refereeing. But yeah, it's also a huge distraction for Boston because, or I guess both teams, if both teams can hear the ref, but still, it's just like that, easy things that are fixable. It just seems every week we stumble into some issue with delays or this or something else. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this. I just thought it was noteworthy because it had never happened before to my knowledge.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't think it's ever happened before. And again, it just shows you that, one, I'm not completely sure what the refs are supposed to do. This isn't football. You can't throw a flag on the field. I don't. Okay, yeah, the refs aren't. It's unclear what the ref is supposed to do exactly, but I think it's not supposed to be doing dishes. You could do dishes some other time. You're being paid to do this job, unless they're not being paid. Are they volunteer refs? I don't know, but yeah, this isn't great. Again, this is just another problem of there's issues with this league. And the thing is, it's funny because it's Thieves and Optic. That was the last game on Saturday, on the Sunday, and then this is the first game, so they forgot to change the. But again, right? They fired most of their production crew, or they laid them off. Sorry, they laid off the production crew. Right? Stuff happens. Okay, so this is actually, I really like this graph. This is really cool. So this is win probability versus the next best team. I love, so the first thing, there's a couple things, obviously one Toronto, and then also Ravens with nothing applicable because you're saying they're the worst team. So that's cool, but basically 51% with Thieves though. So basically it's a 50-50 between those teams. But look, as you can see here with the C tier here, no one is really more than 50% against everybody else. Right? That's basically saying these teams are basically completely interchangeable. Okay, yes, things compound, right? So 51% over Ravens, okay, then 56%. So things compound a little bit, but you probably only get up to maybe six. This team is probably only maybe 65% better than 65% chance to beat Ravens. It's not a huge difference there. But
Yeah.
then you start getting then there's the massive gap between subliners and Vegas, and then Boston. These are basically tied, and then they're much better than them, and then they're much better than them. And it shows you now. On some hand, it's interesting because when these 8 teams play each other, it's fun. But then when these top teams, they just get destroyed. Yeah, that's the state of the league right now.
Yeah, and just a heads up that the numbers that are shown here are from my calculations. They aren't like market derived win probabilities. I know Doug does a similar graph to that where it's each team's win probability versus an average CDL team, whereas this is my personal numbers, and that's versus the next best team that's ranked. So they're ranked in order. And yeah, like you said, the C tier is loaded with teams. I think I did the math. If Vegas and Carolina matched up, Vegas would be like about a 70% favorite. There is that discussion of, do those teams belong in the same tier? For the sake of this graph, I included them in just because you go down the line and each team's win probability is just marginally better than the next. Yeah, pretty striking to see like how high up Toronto are in a match versus FaZe, which does exist this weekend. And then you see that next marker between FaZe and Optic and New York. Now, New York definitely closed the gap on Atlanta last week by defeating them. So that was a big result. But yeah, it just shows where we're at with the league. There are a lot of quick series because if one of those top 4 teams is playing one of those teams in C tier, it's probably going to be pretty quick. And even, like we've seen Toronto and FaZe match up a couple times, and those series were also pretty quick, and those teams are just one tier apart. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting to list them all out like this. I'll continue to try to put this together over the weeks if there's major shifts. But yeah, just interesting to see where each team stands in my power ratings.
Agreed there. Moving on, this is the expected wins. Not much change here. Again, you can see those kind of tiers. But Vegas is up here. So that's pretty cool for
Yes.
them. Yeah, it's a combination of easy schedule plus easier schedule. They did have Ultra in there, but they are pretty good. They are probably one of the next best. I think actually just going back a step here. Yep, they are the next best. They're the next team up, right? So that does mean something here. And FaZe is struggling a little bit because of that Toronto matchup that they have. But outside of that, I think it's a lot more clear this way. And then you have this Miami, man. I don't know. We'll talk about them soon, probably. But it's been a bit rough for them, I would say. Beating the market and combined model results. So I went 2-1 last week. You went 0 for 3. That's rough. This is dumb. This team is so frustrating. I don't understand how they can start series 0-2 and then 3-0 reverse sweep teams. And they've done this a lot of times. This is not the first time they've done this. It's so frustrating. I can't. I honestly can't. And then also Miami got pretty close here too. I think that was a 3-2, right?
So that was map 1.
No, they got destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got destroyed on map 1. But map 3 they came close though. But no, they didn't. Wasn't it?
They almost reverse swept Thebes, but yeah, if you go down, so great picks on your part, right? Like we shared Optic, that obviously didn't go well. They do win 3 maps in a row, but not until losing 2 maps. Classic. Yeah, your New York pick was spot on. They swept Boston in that first series. Wasn't even close, so kudos to you on that. And then we matched with our third pick, right? Boston Breach versus Rocker. You took them straight up money line. That cashed. They won game 4 and game 5. I took them just in the control, and obviously they lost that. That stings a little bit. And then the other two, like Miami, go up against LA Thieves, who have 1 hardpoint win on the year. Map 1, they come out and lay an egg. So that one stings. And it is even worse, right? Because Miami then go on to win map 4. So it's like, I had them winning a hard point. Unfortunately, they won the wrong one. Again, another rough week for me, but I feel like my luck will turn because I'm right there every week, but just can't quite cash. So.
Yeah. I will say I was on this too, and it sucked because they got destroyed map 1, but then came back and literally destroyed Thieves map 4. And it's like, why couldn't you have done this in map 1 when I actually bet on you? It made me very sad. Combined model plays, not great. Again, that's dumb. So dumb. They just went 0-2 and then they decided to start carrying. Toronto lost the search against, not Vegas. Who they lose the search against?
Vegas. They got 6-0'd versus Legion, which was a shock. Maybe the most surprising map result of the year. So that was a surprise.
And then Thieves there as well. Boston, they didn't win map 3. And Seattle just got... Who they play? They played...
Was that Boston? No, Carolina.
And then they lost the series, but they randomly won map 2. They lost got blown out map 1, won map 2, and then got lost map 3, and then got blown out map 4 again. So, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with them. There's some teams that are just not doing particularly well. Okay, first match of the week. Minnesota, your Minnesota Rocker, versus the Atlanta FaZe. Rocker plus 250 the money line, FaZe minus 350, FaZe minus 1.5, maps minus 138, 20.5 point favorites in the hard point, 1.5 round favorites in the search, and then 1.5 round favorites in the control. My model is a little weird here. My model really seems to like Minnesota. I am not sure why. It's very confusing to me why that is. I think it's this thing with... My model really hates FaZe in search, which turns out was true, because they got destroyed by subliners in 2 search and destroys. But probably not this bad, though. But the thing is, when you lose searches, and if my model has you go to game 5, then you're basically automatically losing game 5. I think the tolerance on search... I need to increase the error bars on searches. That would drag this down a little bit. They'd still be favorite, though. But I actually do... I think, yeah. I have Atlanta basically market in the hard point... substantially below market in the search, and then basically market in the control. So it's very interesting. What do you think here, though? Minnesota has had some pretty disappointing results since Major 1. What are your thoughts on this? I think this is just unbettable. I could see Rocker getting this to like a game 5 or something, but I could also just see FaZe just saying, screw it, we're done messing around and just 3-0 them, right? Like classic FaZe. What's your thoughts here on this?
Yeah, my thoughts are I am very worried that Rocker will fall to 0-4 to start the Major 2 qualifiers. Now, they did start 0-4 at the Major 1 qualifiers and then one out to get the 6th seed, actually. So, an 0-4 start is not a death sentence by any means, but yeah, good luck playing FaZe in the first match of the weekend. Yeah, my numbers kind of FaZe in map 2 and map 3. If you want to go money line, that's okay. It's steep, but I do feel really good about FaZe winning this. Rocker have competed very well. Despite all of the losses, they have looked very competitive against some of the best teams in the league. They just can't win. And eventually that trend will end, or they will run into just a free win. But good luck against FaZe, because these guys are probably pretty hungry to get a win after dropping that series to New York last week. Yeah, everything is pretty marginal though, so I think I'm just going to pass for the most part. But yeah, I fully expect FaZe to get this done pretty quickly.
Yeah, agreed. Next match, Toronto, a cool minus 8,000 on the money line against Seattle Surge. Minus 2.5 is minus 163. Really? Did it spike? It is. Wow, they really put that on there. Minus 2,500 in the hard point. 70.5 point favorites. Jeez. Wow. Uh, okay. 1.5, but only 1.5 round favorites in the search. There you go. There's some value there. And then the map 3 spread is off the board as it's a cool minus 1,600 in the control. Yeah, I don't actually like my Toronto minus 2.5. I think it stems from the search. Um, I have Toronto like obviously favored, but only 75% because again it's okay. They sneak in a search in map 2. My model has like a 50-50 chance of them winning the search, and then okay you sneak that in, then all you need to do is win one more map, then you're going to a game 5, and then you got a 50-50, so that brings up Seattle's odds there. I think at this point though I can't see the harm in taking a shot at the 2.5 though. You're getting plus 120 for it. 2.5 to win a map. I feel like you could win a map. I feel like that's definitely doable. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a hard pass for me just because the prices are so steep, but like totally justifiable. Yeah, Seattle could maybe pull out the search win, so that's the only place I see them having a chance. So actually, like if you are interested in Seattle, I might just point you in the direction of map 2, just because that's plus 175 versus the plus 120 to cover or to win anything. So yeah, I just think map 1 is all Toronto. Toronto still only have 2 hardpoint losses on the year, 1 hardpoint loss for the current map pool. Seattle have yet to win a hardpoint with their new lineup, and they're getting blown out every time they play. Granted, they've only played 3 hardpoints so far, but they're like 100-point loss, 100-point loss, and like a 80-point loss. Like they're not even close. And we know Toronto just blows out teams. So for hardpoint, like if you want to take Toronto minus that 70.5, I would rather do that than take Seattle plus the 70.5, just because Toronto, that's what they do, and this is a very easy opponent. Maybe Seattle throws some wrinkles in with some interesting map vetoes, but yeah, at the end of the day, this is a Toronto sweep, or if Seattle can somehow pull out map 2, maybe they can force a game 4, but yeah, all signs point to a Toronto just beat down here. But I'm hoping we see something from Seattle because they had a quality Major 1 and Major 1 qualifiers. They make that switch out Illy onto the bench, and so far it looks like a really bad move that they made. So they could always move and switch back, but yeah, I just want to see some life out of this Surge team that's just been getting crushed lately. TBD on that, but yeah, Toronto Ultra for me here.
Yeah, agreed. Legion versus Breach. This is dead even, minus 120 both ways. However, though Legion is slightly favored, minus plus 225 on the minus 1.5, but I'm sure the price for Boston would be similar. Legion is an underdog in the hard point, 8.5 point underdog, but 1.5 round favorite in the search, but shaded to not that. And then 1.5 round underdogs in the control, but of course minus 175 shaded to Boston there. My model really likes Vegas. Actually, both of our models like Vegas. We're on the Vegas train here. I've got the plus 225 Vegas minus 1.5 hitting about 50% of the time. I don't like them in map 1, but I really like them in map 2, and I somewhat like them in map 3. I basically like them in the market in map 1 as well, but in map 3. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Are we riding the Legion train here?
I think we have to. Yeah, they've looked great so far in the qualifiers. They're just 2-1 with the new lineup. The one loss was to Toronto Ultra. But in that loss, they did, like I mentioned before, 6-0 them on Rio Search and Destroy. One of the more impressive search games of the year. And you look at those hard points that they played. They had an 18-point loss on Rio and then a 3-point loss on Karachi. So they were right there with one of the best hardpoint teams in the game. Vegas stock up. I would say Boston also stock up. They continue to win. They look good with their new lineup. The one thing I will say about this game, I really do think Vegas are a value in the hardpoints specifically. I know we both like Vegas, but we like them for different reasons, it looks like. For you, the search last week is a big signal for you that Vegas Search and Destroy is legit. And I agree with that for the most part. But to me, they have been sneaky good in hardpoint the vast majority of the year. When they win comfortably and when they lose, it's pretty close, like what I said with that Toronto series last week. Boston, on the flip side, they've won more hard points than Vegas, but they eke out a lot of wins, and when they lose, it's ugly. Two very opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm backing the team that generally keeps things close or like wins comfortably over the team that just squeaks out wins. Yeah, for me, it's Vegas map 1. If you want to go minus 1.5, I'm totally cool with that because for that, you could get 2 hard point wins and something else mixed in. So yeah, for me, it's Vegas or nothing here. I will say Boston map 3, I show a little bit of value on, as I do every week for some reason. So Boston could be scrappy and take that map 3, maybe win the map 2, and obviously don't be shocked if they win a hard point. But yeah, I like Vegas ever so slightly here, so I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, agreed. Saturday match 2. Optic versus Carolina. Optic minus 350, minus 1.5, minus 138, which is a very tempting number. It's like right there. It's just, you want to grab this. I'm like, I don't know about that. 17.5 point favorites in the map 1 hardpoint, which they will lose horribly somehow. 1.5 round favorites in the search and destroy, and then 1.5 round favorites in the control. We've basically got market here slightly higher than market. I don't like the minus 1.5. You do a little bit. Neither of us like the map 1. We're both like no. But we like the map 2, and you like the map 3, and I don't like the map 3. What? I don't know. What's the play here? Do you just say, okay, this team is going to lose map 1? Or do you say, okay, they should beat this team. They should beat them 3-1. They could beat them 3-0. I'm just gonna put them on. The thing is, it sucks because it's hard because whenever you bet Optic, you're always paying more for the Optic price, right? But at the same point in time, it's minus 138, right? So what is this without the Optic price? Is this plus 110? Is this team, if it didn't have Optic in front of it, is it plus 110? And if it's plus 110, that's a little concerning because we don't even have it at plus 110. You price it a little better. You price it about, yeah, minus 150, minus 175. I have it priced at plus 110, plus 120. I don't know. I don't know if I want to take a gamble on this. This is a game I might just pass on. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm with you. Even though my numbers tell me like Optic is the play here, I'm very much a pass on this. A lot of that is predicated off of the map 2 value, but if you just go through what map vetoes are going to be, it really looks like the search and destroys are going to be toss-ups. So I would say bring that number down closer to 50%. I still like Optic in the searches, but for me, that number that my model's showing is a little high. I think control is about right. Again, maybe a little high the way the vetoes will play out. I think Carolina will be competitive. And just knowing that like Ravens have looked better as of late. Obviously, they beat Seattle last weekend. That was a nice win. They were competitive versus New York the weekend before. This lineup, since they've had TJ and Fellow in the lineup, they've been okay. They've won almost every other series. This is one I don't expect them to win, but don't be shocked at all if Optic do the Optic thing and come out slow, and Carolina maybe take map 1, maybe can scratch out a map 2 victory. I don't know. Once we get rolling, though, it feels like Optic will get this done. Eventually, I think Optic will close this out. Maybe not in a reverse sweep like they did last week versus Rocker, but yeah, nonetheless, I think mostly a pass for me. If you want to take a side, I would prefer you take Optic in some capacity. You can make an argument in just about everything, but Hardpoint I would steer clear from, just because Ravens have shown some pretty good skill in that lately.
Yeah, it's weird though. You feel weird doing it, but it may be some value there. LAG versus Seattle. LAG is the favorites here against this against this Seattle team that is reeling a little bit. LAG minus 1.5 plus 100. 27.5 point favorites in the hard point, 1.5 round underdogs in the search, and then 1.5 favorites in the control. Moving on, neither of us like LAG here, really. We both like Seattle a little bit. We're basically on market except everything. We just like Seattle in map 2 more, and that's about it. We like Seattle in the search. I don't know, do you think this is worthwhile to bet on, or is this just another pass for you? What do you think?
Yeah, mostly a pass. Again, it's another week where we like Seattle Moneyline and Seattle Map 2. The Map 2 thing I trust more just because the success that they've shown with this new team, they have had at least some success in Search and Destroy, and they were already a good Search and Destroy team at Major 1. So that's okay, but their hardpoint and their control is really struggling lately. So actually, LAG Map 3, even though it's at minus 200, I think is a fair bet to make. Seattle have only 2 wins in control all year, and a lot of times they're just not even competing. Their only 2 controls that they've played with this lineup were both 3-0s. So, yeah, they are not looking good in control, to say the least. Their hardpoint has always struggled. And, yeah, LAG are solid in hardpoint. They're solid in control, and I think that's enough to get them over the finish line in this game. So I think it'll be pretty close. Don't be surprised if Seattle get their first win of the qualifiers, but all roads lead to an LAG 3-1, I would say. But if Seattle can split those first 4 games, then yeah, Seattle are very live to win this in a map 5. We'll see how it shakes out, but again, mostly just a pass for me. That's just not a super interesting game.
Yeah. Moving on to Sunday. Miami versus minus 450 in the money line, minus 1.5, minus 163. 27.5 point favorites in the hard point, 1.5 round favorites in the search, and 1.5 round favorites in the control. I love subliners here. You like Miami a little bit to make it, but you're not particularly huge on Miami either. You've got it about 50-50. You're not seeing a lot of value, but my model seems to love the subliners. What are your thoughts on this one? Are you with... I like the subliners, but I still don't love it at minus 163. I'll see if I can find something to pair that with, but it's not a particularly fun bet for me to make. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess with your numbers too, the map 2 and the map 3 value is there, so there is a path where New York maybe trip up in the hard points and win in a game 5. So that's why I can see why that minus 1.5 is a little not ideal at that price. And the money line is at minus 450, so that's also pretty steep. But if you see value somewhere, I say take it. However you want to play New York, I'm okay with. They are red hot. This is a pretty easy opponent considering the fact that Miami has lost its last, I want to say, 6 series in a row. 2 back at Major 1, and then I believe they're 0-4 to start this qualifier. So not a great sign. The one thing I will say about Miami, their first 2 matches of this qualifier were against Atlanta and Toronto, and they got 1 map win out of those 2 series. And that one map win was a hard point against FaZe, so that's something. And in their other series, they were reverse swept by Vegas last week, and then they almost pulled a reverse sweep themselves, but lost in a Game 5 Round 11. Really close to winning either of those series, if not both. And the one thing that stayed pretty consistent all year with Miami is their hard point. So that's why I see some value in that plus 175 in map 1. I think it's pretty likely that these teams split hard points if it goes to map 4. Fingers crossed that Miami can get the map 1 in their favor. But yeah, they've really fallen off in Search and Destroy. Like, when they win, it feels like it's in a round 11, and they've tripped up a lot with this new lineup. Not a huge surprise anytime you make a roster move. Generally, the consensus is your Search and Destroy might suffer if you were an average or above average team to begin with. Yeah, I think Miami can just make it a long series based on the fact that they're pretty okay at hardpoint, and Control is a game mode that's given New York problems at times. So yeah, I see this being a long series, but at the end of the day, if it goes to a Game 5, I trust New York a lot more than Miami. I think New York win, but Miami maybe get the plus 1.5 cover.
Yeah, agreed. Match 2, Toronto versus FaZe rematch of the Major 1 final. Ultra minus 1.5 plus 100, FaZe plus 1.5 minus 138. Ultra 22.5 point favorites in the hard point, 1.5 round favorites in the search, and surprisingly an underdog in the Control. Very surprising there. The book's not loving Toronto in Control at all. I have basically the sports book's number here. I don't like the minus 1.5. You the 1.5, but not that much. I'm really out on Toronto hardpoint, and I'm out on Toronto Control, but my model loves them in search, which definitely makes up for that. So it's a bit of 6 of one, half dozen of another there, but it's like on aggregate, my model says this goes to a Game 5 and Toronto crushes them in Game 5. That's what mine says. Yours is a lot more, okay, they probably win a hard point in the search, and then they lose the Control, but then they win Game 4 hard point. If you had to take a side here, do you like the minus 1.5, or you just want to pass on? There's so many games you just like, I want to pass on this game and just don't even know what to do.
Yeah, this one is interesting just because I see value on either team. It just depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, FaZe and Control are rightful favorites. I actually think they should be much heavier favorites in map 3, but the book is maybe a little nervous to bump up that price just knowing that Toronto is the best team in the game. But yeah, by my numbers, Atlanta are the best Control team. Toronto are 4th. And the 2 times these teams have played, they've played 2 Controls. Both were on Invasion. Atlanta won 3-2, and then Atlanta won 3-1. So head-to-head favors Atlanta. They're only minus 125, so I like that quite a bit, actually. Either Toronto will veto Invasion, just knowing that they've lost to Atlanta now twice. And if they do that, I think Atlanta has a really good case to win a high rise or even a Karachi. But yeah, however the vetoes play out in map 3, I like it for FaZe. If we get a Karachi, I'm a little nervous, but high rise is in FaZe's favor, and we've seen them win Invasion twice. I like that quite a bit. But yeah, Toronto map 1, Toronto and hardpoint are almost automatic. They have beaten FaZe and hardpoint every time they've played them. They, again, only have 1 map loss in hardpoint with the current map pool, and that was on Rio. So we'll see if that maybe becomes their veto. Toronto map 2, a little more interesting. I'm surprised my numbers still see that as a value, considering that Toronto were 6-0'd last week by a good search team in Vegas, but Atlanta have shown more struggles throughout the year in Search and Destroy, so we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really good series. Hopefully better than the 2 that we've seen so far, because Toronto just took care of business pretty quickly in both. But yeah, my favorite thing here is probably Atlanta map 3, but if you want to take Toronto minus 1.5, totally justified, right? They win easily when they play FaZe, so this could be the same result here. But yeah, super, super excited to watch this third match of the year already for these two.
It is the third time they've played. Yeah, because they didn't play in Major 1 qualifiers. Last match of the weekend. Minnesota versus Thieves. Thieves, the underdog here. Rocker minus 150. Minus 1.5 plus 125. 22.5 point favorites in the hard point. 1.5 round underdogs in the search. And then 1.5 round and it's slight favorites in the control. As it breaks out, my model loves Thieves here. Your model likes Rocker, so we're on opposite ends here. I like these across the board. You like them much more in control than I do, though. But outside of that, yeah, my model really likes Thieves. I don't know what to say here. But yeah, I'm probably taking Thieves here. I think Thieves have struggled. I think they're trying to turn it around. Afro is still a good player. There is some positives on this Thieves team. But I think they just need... I think they're slowly starting to come back. I think this might be the beginning of a bit of a run for them, and I just don't know. It's weird. My model likes Rocker against FaZe, but then likes Thieves against Rocker. My model does some very weird things that don't make a lot of sense. But I agree with this one. I think this is like Thieves were pretty good last week. They went 2-0 last week. They had a good week. I think they could do some damage this weekend. Are you sticking with Rocker here, or are you gonna go with Thieves?
Yeah, this one's more of a pass than anything. Again, even though my numbers are very in favor of Rocker, the only thing I really like is that map 2, I think. Minnesota are a plus 110 underdog. I have that at basically a 50-50, so plus 110 is something for value. Not much, but something. LA Thieves map 3, despite losing to Heretics last week, still value in that, apparently. That's just my weekly Thieves in map 3, Boston in map 3, Seattle in map 2. We just see these keep popping up. But yeah, at the end of the day, my numbers are going to be slow to react to Thieves just because they were so bad at hardpoint for the entire Major 1 qualifier and throughout Major 1. They finally got their second hardpoint win of the year against Miami last weekend, a series that went to a game 5, went to a round 11. Thankfully, Thieves break their losing streak and get back in the win column. But for Minnesota, this is okay. You've had some chances at wins. You've tripped over yourself many times. You get Atlanta on Friday. Good luck with that. Hopefully this will be Rocker's first win. If not, second win would be awesome. But it's tough, man. Like, Thieves have all the time to prepare in this series. This is their only match. Rocker obviously are getting ready for playing FaZe on Friday, so only one day off to get ready for Thieves. I don't know yet with Thieves. Like, until they show me more in hardpoint, I just can't. It was good that they got the splits against Miami last weekend, but yeah, I need to see one great map that they have that they can go to, or two maps that they're solid in. Right now, it's just very much, I don't know if they're going to keep winning hard points, because Minnesota are okay in that. They're solid in S&D and control. I think we could have some close maps here. I expect Minnesota to pull this one out, but yeah, maybe Thieves continue their little run here and catch a Minnesota team that could just be reeling after losing on Friday.
Yeah, I agree with that. Moving on, beating the market and combined model plays. So these are my picks for this week as I try to get back to even here and used well. I am on subliners minus 1.5. My model loves it too much, I think. I might play it straight up. It's a bit of a steeper price, but I'll see. I have nope, got it again. Vegas money line there on map for against Boston. You have the map 1 there on your pick 2. And then for my pick 3, which is it's funny because for my pick 3, I try to make a little bit of a 3-point shot. Usually try something a little juicier, and usually that pays off. But this week I'm just going to plus 110 against Minnesota. This board is really, man, it's not good. It's a very kind of weak board. I don't know. I like your picks, though. I think map 3 minus 1.5, FaZe could definitely do that to Ultra. Legion could lose to Boston, that's possible. And then Heretics could beat Subliners in map 1, potentially. My model doesn't see it, but I think that's not a bad pick at all, though. Those are our picks. Anything you want to say about your picks?
Yeah, just the phase pick is mostly just we've seen them play Toronto twice, and they have won 3-1 and 3-2. So at plus 200, I think that's good value. You might sense I'm taking some bigger swings at these, just trying to shake things up a little bit because my picks have not been hitting. So I'm starting to swing for the fences. Yeah, Vegas, like we said, I think they're just the better hardpoint team, and at minus 110, that's pretty good value. And then Miami, despite their struggles, I think can compete with New York and hopefully can split a couple hard points, and hopefully the one they get is in map 1. So that's where I'm going this week. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's been a rough year so far for me.
Yeah. Combined model plays, we have phase map 3, Vegas moneyline minus 1.5, Texas moneyline map 2, not Legion, map 3, Seattle moneyline map 2, God Save Us, Miami map 1, New York Subliners map 2, phase map 3, Toronto moneyline and map 2, and Thieves map 3 for the combined model plays. That is it for this week. We'll be back next week, Wednesday. Oh, we're recording on... No, you're recording on Wednesday. It'll be out on Thursday. Yes. Yeah,
I might have... I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes okay. I get the stuff wrong, but we'll be back next week.
It's okay. We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week on, I guess, your Thursday. But then the week after that is the major, right? So then we'll be back on Then we will be back on Wednesday, I think.
No, we actually have five weeks of qualifiers for this major. So.
They stretch us out for 5 weeks. Wow.
Yep. And
I
next
should know this
major.
because I have...
Yeah.
This is the slow death of the CDL. This is pretty rough. But anyways, all right, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, everybody, and good luck, and we'll see you next week.